Hi, I'm Amiel, and you're watching a video courtesy of AwakeningTheTruthWithin.com. I have a private practice as a transformational psychotherapist and a healing facilitation practice, and you can find information about all my services, many helpful articles, and some free tools on my website, and you can find that link below. This particular video is about struggle in life, and you may find it helpful if you are struggling to let go of that pattern of struggle. So I think it's pretty safe to say that almost everybody would say that at some point in their life they have experienced some level of struggle. For some, it's much more intense than others. But just to be clear, what we're talking about when we say struggle is that there isn't this sense that things are easy or that they flow effortlessly or that there's even a sense of inner peace. There's always something creating an obstacle or an interference or this disruption to the ease in life. And it's true that on this planet, we have had histories of struggle. We just have to look at the history of what's happened on Earth and we can see many examples of struggle. So that means that we're holding those imprints in our cellular memory. And we can also look to our ancestral line. We can even look to the more immediate imprints and influences like the families that we were born into. And so what we might see there is that there has been struggle in some shape or form. Again, for some more than others. So what that means is that we are going to be holding subconscious beliefs in our energy field, maybe many that we're not aware of. And what those beliefs around struggle can sound like are, I have to struggle. Life is a struggle. I have to struggle to get to the rewards, or I only get to peace if I move through struggle. Now, given the choice, many people, of course, would choose peace, inner peace. I want to have flow. I want to have ease and grace. I want to have things unfold effortlessly. And certainly this is what many people right now are intending for the planet, for group consciousness. And of course, that sense of peace, that sense of ease, begins on a personal level with our own inner perception, with our own perception of how we move through life. So if we're holding this sense of struggle in our subconscious mind, if we're holding core beliefs around struggle, then we're going to have the outer experience of struggle. It's going to be reflected back to us in our experiences. So again, it goes without saying that if we're holding beliefs around peace and ease and grace, obviously that's going to create a more joyful experience of life, a lighter experience of life. So we're not disputing that. But what I am wanting to bring to awareness is some discernment around the secondary story that's attached to the ego story of struggle. So you notice if we look at a belief like, I have to struggle to get to peace, or if I move through the struggle, I'll find my ease someday. there's an inference there that those two perspectives are connected. There's a perspective of struggle, and one leads to another, but the other is that story of peace or ease. And we can safely say that often if the ego is getting frustrated and angry about the struggle, well, then the ego has some idea of how life should be. And yes, ease, grace, peace, they all would be better. However, if we're attached to this story of how life should be, if we have an expectation of how life should be, then really we are still operating from ego. In other words, both the story of struggle and the story of how life should be are both coming through the ego's subconscious mind. And so if we have an experience in life that challenges us, as they often do, and it's not an experience of ease and grace, it's not an experience of peace, and the ego is expecting it to be that, and it doesn't get that need met, then the ego is going to use that life experience as ammunition to resist life, to be angry or frustrated about that experience of life. So then what happens is that you've got one story or the other. You've got this story of struggle or this story of how life should be, but both of them are ego stories, and nothing gets resolved. And you can find yourself in this trap where you are expecting life constantly to be different than it is. And that creates more struggle. So there's this secondary story that's feeding the story of struggle. And so one of the questions you can ask yourself is, if I'm expecting life to be different than struggle, what is it that I'm expecting? And that will give you a clue, perhaps, of what you're holding in polarity to the story of struggle. In other words, it's just another ego story, but it's in polarity. It may look better than the story of struggle, but if you're attached to it, if you're expecting it to be that, then you're just going to keep yourself caught in ego stories. Now, if you can identify what that story is, the story of how you expect life to be, then you can ask yourself, well, if it's not the story of struggle that I want in my life, and it's not this expectation of how life should be, because that's really not serving me either, then what happens if I synthesize those polarities? What do I find if it's neither one of those, but perhaps somewhere in the middle? And what you may find is that you end up in simply life, the story of life, the experience of life. It's neither good nor bad. It's not struggle. It's not having to be a certain way either. It just is. Life is a series of experiences. And we can respond to those experiences. We can judge them as struggle. We can judge them as falling short of some sort of expectation. Or we can accept them. We can accept them for what they are, which is opportunities to grow, to move through, to expand our consciousness. And that's all. We meet them with this sense of neutrality. Because the moment we do that, the moment we accept them, what we're actually saying is that we are willing to receive those experiences and meet them in and through our highest expression of who we are, through our spirit as opposed to our ego. And when we observe them, when we allow them through the experience of our spirit, well, then we are no longer in resistance to those experiences. We are no longer in struggle. And we have actually harmonized with our experiences in life. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that all our experiences are going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that all of them are painful either. It's both. Sometimes they are painful, sometimes very painful, and sometimes they're easy. But it's our inner perception of how we experience life and what life is that determines how we respond, how we move through it. If we align with our spirit, if we receive them as opportunities to grow, to learn about ourselves, to expand our consciousness, then we're moving into freedom. Then we're moving into greater ease around our experience with life. So I hope this perspective is helpful. I have an article on my blog called "Are You Arguing with Life?" And it's on very similar concepts, and explains this a little bit further and a little bit more deeply. So you may also find it helpful to look at that. Until next time, be peace.